chief is off. Attached is his police report. If anybody have any questions, let me know. Under community events, that's not on there. I did have an opportunity to represent our department at the area Cub Scouts Derby race at the East Troy Community Center in the village. It was a good event and a good turnout, so I appreciate their invitation to invite me. And just not on here, as a side note, the last 2 weeks, our department's been really busy, with a number of arrests for impaired driving and drugs. We had a felon in possession of a handgun and drugs in a residential area. And one of the guys also located a stolen vehicle just over the weekend from Milwaukee that was driving through, so they've been doing a great job. I'm proud of them. Everybody's busy with reports in court, and that's all I have for you. If anyone has any questions.
I see there was a separate, memo, given that explained the patrol officer staff, like we discussed a couple months ago, but a separate report on that.
So with the level of activity, John, I see in February, there were 377 house checks conducted, and February's a short month, so that's like 13 a day. Does some of that need to be scaled back for the, I mean, is that multiple times per day on each house?
Each house check is checked once per shift. And there are, sometimes close to 20 house checks with like residents that go away.
Yeah.
So that's the current procedure in place by the chief, whether that can
And
be.
that is flexible, I'm assuming, based on other workload?
It is, obviously priority calls, if there's
Right.
a service call, if there's an arrest, that house check's not being done. But if they are free, they are doing a house check.
Okay. And then it mentioned 223 extra patrols, so what's an example of extra patrol again, if you can remind me?
So extra patrol might be just a general neighborhood patrol, driving through, documenting where they were. Sometimes it's an area where there was a theft, and it's a specific extra patrol, so the citizens know that we were in that vicinity at that time and date. It's time stamped, not only with what we're entering, but also with the GPS. What we went away with 7 years ago was a typed Microsoft log that everybody was typing at the end of the shift. And now with ProPhoenix being so interactive, you can press a button and it puts us at that location. So the call for service for that is an extra patrol. So if there ever is a break-in in the general area or suspicious activity, we can go back and show that an officer was in that area at that time frame. So they're not always requested by citizens, but sometimes they are. An extra patrol could be for a speeding complaint, that we were actually patrolling that area for 30 minutes doing radar. So there's a wide variety of what each extra patrol.
So it's almost just more documentation of your regular.
Correct.
activities.
It's
And
their justification of
accountability,
what,
so to speak,
exactly.
of what
Yes.
officers are doing and.
Yes.
What
And
areas
that's-
you're in, and, yeah.
And as I tell them, unless they're doing reports, there shouldn't be any lulls in their hours of nothing.
Big gaps.
I wanna know where you are, what extra patrol you're doing, what traffic you're doing, whatever it may be, what follow-up. And that's why our system's so interactive now, it timestamps all that, which is really nice for end of the month stats and to show everybody is up to it.
And I don't know if it, like your thought, my thought is like, holy, 2,063 calls of service, like that number just seems really large,
In
just
2 months.
because,
Yeah.
even before I was coming to meetings before, it was like 40 some calls a day, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
ProPhoenix has the general call term.
Yeah,
so calls
but that's
also
why
are-
that number is so,
Almost
so
almost
high.
every activity or action that takes
Sure.
place is a call.
You know, I mean,
Not necessarily
this
call.
is our department's protocol on how you're using the Phoenix, cause everybody's department uses it differently, like, you know, there's a lot of departments that have a very low number of calls, so it's a good question to ask, to be able to see what's going on.
And ProPhoenix was at least initially, the startup costs were expensive, so we wanna get the usage out of it that we can. And Gene's been a big help with that too, with scanning the documents related to calls, instead of having all these files building up in file cabinets. She's been a great help to us to get everything attached in there, just trying to use it efficiently, so it's a big program.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Joanne? Thank you. Okay, East Troy Area Emergency Services District report. There's some two parts for you.
Okay, I can tell you that on Saturday, we took possession of the new fire truck. The truck is not yet equipped, the estimated time of arrival for the materials that need to equip the truck is, not definitive. We are at the mercy of, product, availability as well as shipping. So there are things like hoses, ladders, nozzles. Those are all things that are not part of acquiring the new truck. So until we can get all of the pieces that the, personnel need to respond to a call, that truck is not available for service. I will let you know when that happens.
So when do we make our payment?
We already made the payment.
We have to make the payment.
But do we have to pay part of all that equipment too?
We have funds set aside for, equipment from the sale of the old engine.
So no more money on
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Was there any discussion as far as equipment? I mean, I know you try to have extras of certain things, as far as this all gonna be a brand new, you know, I mean, I know there's nozzles and there's hose and there's, or is this all trying to be a brand new setup?
I think it's trying to be a brand new setup so that we can estimate better our rotation of replacement, because if we get used equipment, then we don't know when that equipment's going to wear out, and we won't have, a better handle on replacement.
But I mean, obviously, if there's issues, which the entire world's having problems with getting things, I mean,
Right.
you use it to get it in, to get it
There
in
are
service.
things that we have in the firehouse that Joe is hoping, like, we have some hose that can go, that can outfit it.
Temporarily, right? 'Cause
Well,
you're saying,
Just
yeah.
to get it into
Right.
service, if we're waiting
Use
on
it.
things out.
But we're waiting for ladders and,
Mhm.
and making sure that we have enough equipment on it to sufficiently respond to a
Yeah.
necessary call.
Cause I'm sure some of that equipment could be available in 6 weeks and some could not be available for 6 months, so if we have,
We don't-
like Chad is saying.
Yeah, no, it's-
We're not looking, I guess what Joe's indication, Chief DeGaro's indication was, is that we're not looking 6 months down the line, but somewhere in the next 1 to 2 months of getting that. He hoped to have the vehicle online before the end of April.
oh,
I assume. Cause I work in supply chain and they could decommit again.
Please don't wish that.
I'm not, I'm just saying reality.
I totally get it, cause that was a question that was asked at last Tuesday night's meeting. COVID testing is going, we are doing probably about 4 to 5 a week. COVID numbers are down nationwide and we are falling, as well.
4 to 5 tests per week? Per day.
Correct.
So does someone, it's my understanding like someone has to gear up, right?
Call,
But it's all
But they're
appointment only,
scheduled.
it's all appointment
They're-
only.
Their appointment only, and Joe, Chief DeGaro is scheduling them so that we don't have to have, Assistant Chief Bartle, who's been doing most of the testing, because he's not on shift. He has a schedule and he comes when we fill up his bulk of schedule. And he is not getting paid for that, so he is doing this as a service to the community. What was the other thing? Our ladder truck is due to be tested tomorrow to see if, now that the repairs have been made, if it will pass inspection. So that's a ongoing issue. And last month, we, joined the Pro Phoenix log of recording, and that, forced us to purchase the ProPhoenix software, as well as 4 GTAC computers, one for the fire engine, the primary fire engine, one for each of the ambulances, and one for, the command vehicle that is Chief DeGaro's personal truck. So that was an expense that we had not budgeted for. I think the computers were, I know the, software was 5,200, I wanna say the computers were about 4. So, that was, almost $10,000 worth of equipment that we had not budgeted for, but the county has now, required all EMS, and fire to be on ProPhoenix in the county, so,
Starting like right now.
yeah. Joe has been on,
Did they just tell you that, or was there like a,
it was in process, we didn't know how fast they were going to get their end up. Joe has been in training, Chief DeGaro has been in training since, what is this? This is March, since, the end of February. He does 6 to 8 hours a day, every week at the county in ProPhoenix training.
Do you know how much is in your emergency fund?
No, at this time I can't rattle that number off the top of my head.
The contingency fund.
Cause that's supposed to be like 150,000.
It is not.
I thought it was.
Right now, I know that between the checking and savings, I think we have about 79,000.
I believe it's 50, and I believe, years back, Dave Bitter brought to all the boards requesting to increase that amount, and we all said no, the village said no, we said no. The village council said no. And I believe the reason, not the reason, but the fallback on it was, well, if you exceed that contingency amount, you gotta come to the boards anyway, or something like that. But this is like 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, it goes back a ways.
Maybe even 10 years ago.
just seems like really short notice on the county's end, if you start, to all of a sudden implement it, usually it would be all right in 6 months, so there, I mean, it seems like a really short amount of time, that's why I asked.
Anything else on that?
If we're ready, I had a question.
That we're not on the municipal agreement yet. We spent 5,200 on the purchasing and licensing and paid 8932.40 to, CVW for the GTAC computers. So that's about 14,000. Not to mention the fact that just being, village employees, there has been workman's comp and insurance benefits that were not estimated correctly. So there will be times when I believe I may come back if we don't figure out a way to finance this differently. Cause I believe our budget was 525,000, and we are about 134,000 short for the annual payroll, workman's comp and, insurance budget at this juncture.
You've got some financial,
We have some vehicles that we hope to sell, and we are billing for fire calls, to the insurance companies, not to the residents. But there's a lot that we are behind the 8 ball on.
Quite a mistake. Quite a number.
big number.
That's true.
Trust me, I have been losing sleep over it.
Can I change the subject to, the number of rescue, department, the rescues and the EMS calls, all-time highs. Just curious, what, do you have any reason, you wonder why it's,
An
things
older
that are,
population, pandemic,
little pan,
COVID.
COVID, that's pretty much COVID related.
it's not all COVID related, but I can definitely tell you we're an older population in this area, and with an aging population, you have greater calls,
Sure,
so.
good to see that.
We had 93 rescue calls in the month of February. That was 21 up from 2021 in February. At this rate, we will exceed 900 EMS calls in the year 2022. I have a medical director who I happen to run into on a personal note who said to me, I cannot believe you are still operating as a volunteer department with as many fire and EMS calls as you are currently having.
When do you think that's gonna end? Do you guys
We
been
do
having?
not see an end. Right now, the trends continue to go up on a monthly basis.
I mean, from a volunteer to a full-time, and there's gotta be discussions, I mean, there's
There
already
is
been things
discussion,
implementing,
but-
starting to go that direction, so.
I think that the first step was taken when we joined the village of East Troy to do our payroll in the month of January. It is a discussion that is, at the infancy stages between the Friends of the Fire District, the Fire Board of Trustees. I don't know that we have a clear path as to how to make a municipal department without taking it to a referendum.
But I mean, it just seems to me as the things that are going on that I'm not saying that I disagree with, but it really looks like everything is shifting, because I think that's gonna tentatively be something that's gonna have to happen in future. I mean, if we're having these kind of calls, and if we're charging now, we're starting to charge for calls, and which.
We're billing insurance for calls.
Sure, but I mean, because that's all things to try to help, right, I mean.
That should have been done
To justify
when
the
the
pay.
resolution was signed in 2012. There have been 10 years that we've let funds slip through our hands because we did not bill for fire calls to insurance companies. A car accident out on 43 requires a lot of personnel and a lot of work.
Sure, I was there, I understand.
I know you
I
were.
understand all that, I
But-
was just,
We should have been billing back in 2012 and maybe we wouldn't be quite as behind. As for the future of volunteers, we are looking for a path of which volunteers can remain to be a part of the district. How we do that, I can't say for sure. Do I think that at some point we are going to, I look at my taxes and, I'm not paying a whole lot as a resident for fire and EMS services. That might need to change, and the only way to do that is through a referendum.
thank you.
Yeah,
Is that it for the general?
the general, now we go on to the big one. All right, the emergency services agreement, again, this was not updated when the town of Lafayette withdrew from the, East Troy Area Emergency Services District, and I believe Lafayette left in 2019. I think it's been almost 3 years. So we had sent it to the, district attorney, Mr. Schultze, to, review and update it. There are still some things that need to be changed. For example, he often refers to the East Troy Rescue Squad. I don't know that that's correct terminology at this juncture. I think we need to be the East Troy Emergency Services District and not the fire department and the rescue squad. We need to be one entity. But this is a discussion that needs to happen at the, at the trustee level and then reinforced by our attorney. That would involve a change on page 1 at the bottom, and these are just the changes that I have noted. I do not know what President Alexander found, because he indicated there were some minor changes that needed to be made. Page 3, under number 5, he calls it the East Troy Area Fire and Rescue Department. I'm not sure that that's correct terminology.
Can we go back to page 2? As you said, at the top, it says the town of Lafayette has decided to withdraw, but then under territory included,
We still by law have to cover that area because we are the closest service district. And so we do respond to, and we bill them independently, for our services. So it's a contract basis, we still by law have to cover that territory.
Just like the town
I was
of
wondering
Troy.
the same.
Town of Troy, we cover that territory. Well, we cover that territory, via EMS. But
Right,
Spring
rescue.
Prairie, we cover, the town of Troy, we service only EMS wise because they have their own fire department.
how do we determine the rates we bill back to Lafayette and Troy who are not on? the-
Based on, it is a number that is calculated based on the average number of calls over 5 years, the property value for the entire area that we need to service, and there's one other number in there.
Equalized value.
Thank you.
So everybody gets charged the same way, just so happens that when Lafayette withdrew, they're not part of the district, but they
They're
are,
still
in-
serviced.
they're
by
still
the-
serviced.
Yeah, so they don't
Yeah,
get
but-
quarterly
Right,
operating.
But then they're not helping with the
With
new
the
truck
tender.
and.
Well, some of that was.
So
They
that
had-
rate,
Some of that, they have a period of time by which they withdrew, but they still have to contribute to the capital. That's part of it too. But I don't remember for how many years they have to contribute. I wanna say it's 5. When they left, they could not take any of the equipment with, but
right, I saw that.
because they had agreed to purchase this truck, they had to still go in on some of that, so that's figured out in their capital, in their billing rate. That's why
Yeah, 'cause
our,
I think Jim, do you have this?
No.
I think we definitely need some review, cause I don't understand how a withdrawal would not affect the obligations of the remaining municipalities.
it has,
She said
our
it
portions
does.
have increased greatly.
And that's language written in here, so.
All that, excuse me, all that has to be checked. I guess what Barb is saying is that there's more changes that are gonna occur at the district before it comes back to us for approval. That's why we struck the approval, but that's we're having a discussion. But I do believe that when we get to that point, before we would approve it, we're gonna want.
We're
Mr.
going to
Mills
authorize Attorney Mills to take a look at it on our behalf.
I don't believe I was authorized to review the agreement for them to withdraw. So if there has to be questions
That would
about
have been Dave.
that,
That would
I might have to review that agreement too, but it's from 2019, it sounds like.
At that time, yes,
Right.
yes.
Cause
Because,
that is specified in this
Yeah.
agreement.
because again, this is the amended restated part of it. There's still a base agreement that was done back, I don't know,
Well, this was
2012,
done in 2010.
10.
The district's attorney, is that
Rick,
still up in Sheboygan or that area, or no?
I don't know. I am the vice president, unless I'm authorized by the president, I don't get to speak with the attorney.
There is another change then on page 1 under recitals, just so you have it in your.
Okay.
Under recitals, the third line, it says town of Ashtroy.
Yeah, I saw it.
What page?
First page, under recitals, third line, town of, he's got an F
Oh,
instead of
got it.
E.
Gotta read this 3
So if we're
times.
the town of Fast Troy, that makes John Kendall the slow Troy. So that, I mean, there's gonna be other things obviously, but did you have any other things that you found that Barb should have when she goes to the next meeting to discuss this?
Not yet, I didn't get
I just have punctuation, but that's minor, correct, you know?
No, after I saw Lafayette was withdrawn, but still covered, and then the other withdrawal stuff, I kind of stopped.
Page 710A, last sentence. I believe that commission shall consider all public comments. Most comments is probably legal before presenting the budget. Budget hearing. That'd be something that Jim would probably look at, see whether that's correct or not, because public comment in singular, in aggregate, could be also, you know, a singular, comment, but I thought comments would be more appropriate. That's only two things I had. You said you got the names of what the actual districts are called, and then whatever John had, and I'm sure I had some more.
Yeah, I do.
So I would take it, I know we've been talking about doing this ever since. And then there was a couple changes in the board, mostly with the village.
Yeah,
So,
the village board has changed 3 times in
since,
my 4 years of being on.
since that happened.
And it says the terms are effective January 1st of 2022.
I got a question.
I think that
January
would be
1st.
backdated.
I got a question for you, Barb. When the commissioners, the board of commissioners, why does the town get 3, village get 2, and
Based on how
Just
much
like to-
money
why,
we contributed to the budget.
okay,
The town pays 2/3, the village pays less, and the town of Spring Prairie pays even less.
But the commission is different than your,
When I
Committee?
asked, no, when I asked that, the attorney said commissioner or trustee were interchangeable and he would not change it back to trustee. So,
The money deal is a very complicated formula on how the 3 communities, at one time 4 communities, paid for the services. And it had to do with population, calls, and equalized value. And there's a certain percentage of each. And we've had this similar discussion with the proposed library agreement.
Right.
They always settle on just population. In the fire district, it's the 3-pronged